Hello dear listeners, welcome back to our channel Reddit Audio Tales. So let's start today's story. I've always been fascinated by stone masonry. As a kid, I'd spend hours watching my grandfather meticulously lay stones, creating timeless structures. His weathered hands moved with a grace that made the hard work seem easy. By my teens, I knew I wanted to follow in his footsteps, not just to honor him, but because I loved the craft. There's something deeply satisfying about shaping raw materials into something lasting. In my early 20s, after 4 years in the military, I returned home with a new outlook. The discipline and patience I gained paired well with masonry. I took over the family business and soon led projects my grandfather would have been proud of. But it wasn't just about building stone walls. It was the connections I made along the way. At Jerry's wedding, I smiled, happy for him. After all he'd been through, seeing his joy was heartwarming. When I got his invite, I called him immediately. "Are you sure about this?" I asked. He chuckled. "Absolutely. If it weren't for you, I'd never have met Anna. You stood by me when others would have walked away." At the wedding, his new wife hugged me and whispered, "I've heard your story. I'd love to hear it from you." I smiled as I watched them. They were older but acted like teenagers. I wished them well. While dancing with the bride, I saw her, my ex. I froze. Anna noticed and grabbed my arm. "Please don't ruin my wedding," she pleaded. "What's she doing here? Does Jerry know?" I asked, frustrated. "He knows," she replied. "He invited her for you. Now let's finish this dance." I was furious but stayed. Jerry approached me afterward, grinning. "I didn't invite her to the wedding, just the reception. You need to talk to her." I argued, but both Jerry and Anna stayed by my side. Finally, Anna snapped, "You're being ridiculous. Talk to her, get it over with, and stop ruining our night." She was right. I had too much to drink. And suddenly there she was. Tears in her eyes, hand outstretched. "Will you dance with me, please?" she asked. I could have ignored her, but instead I took her hand. As we danced, I felt her tears on my jacket. She whispered, "Let me pretend for just a moment that you still love me." The truth was I did. We moved slowly, lost in memories. I thought about all the women I'd loved, but she was the one who lingered. The one who wasn't really mine. That's why it hurt so much. As I hugged her tighter, I realized I was only torturing myself. I saw the fight coming but didn't believe it. A smaller guy, about 40, rushed at me, his friends trying to stop him. I was 31, tall, strong, and feeling good. It was a Thursday. I'd just been paid and I was waiting for my girlfriend. What could go wrong? I didn't know the guy and had never seen him before. He stood right in front of me and I wondered what he was up to as his hands slowly moved up from his knees, forming a fist. It was so awkward. I figured he'd never thrown a punch before. Then he punched me in the eye. I was so focused on his weird movements, I didn't even think to defend myself. I fell and he tried to kick me. I'd been out of the military long enough for this guy to catch me off guard. But my instincts kicked in fast. I rolled, grabbed his leg, and pulled him down, trapping him easily. His two friends tried to jump in, but they were outnumbered and the bartender helped pull me off him. My cousin, who owned the bar, saw everything but just kept polishing glasses. I caught my breath and got in the guy's face. "What's your problem, man? You must have a last wish, attacking someone half your age and twice your size." He kept struggling. "Let me go, you low life. You need to learn not to mess with married Women. I stared at him, thinking he was either high or crazy. I shoved him off and stood up. I'm not doing anything wrong, but if you come at me again, you'll regret it. Got it? He didn't. He came at me again and I knocked him out with one punch. I told his friends to get him out. And the bartender backed me up. They dragged him away and we all laughed it off until my date arrived. She saw my bruise and asked, "What happened?" Some guy thought I was messing with his wife and sucker punched me. Sad, really. He was older, short, and didn't know how to fight. But he had guts. As I explained, her face went pale. I tried to lighten the mood. Relax, I'm fine. But if you want to kiss it better, I won't complain. She kissed me and teased. He must have been crazy to attack you. Didn't he notice these muscles? Later, I found out she just wanted me to describe him again. He was older, short, a bit out of shape, but had nerve. If his wife really was cheating, it could get ugly. Melody excused herself, saying she wasn't feeling well. My cousin. The bartender chimed in. Guys like that are the ones you have to watch. They snap when they find out their wife's cheating. I've seen it 100 times. Let's hope you rattled him enough to stay away. I agreed. I hope he finds the right guy and deals with him, but he needs to get his facts straight first. Melody came back looking upset. Sorry, the hospital called. Big accident on the highway and they need help. I'll call you tomorrow if I'm not too tired. She kissed me and left. She was a trauma nurse, so this happened often. Luckily, she had a few days off after her long shifts while I worked out of town most of the week. No, I don't have a fancy job flying around the country solving big problems. I lay stone. That's right. Big rocks. My dad was always traveling for work, making big money for his company. So my mom mostly raised my sister and me on her own. She did a great job, but when I was 12, my dad left her for a younger woman. It broke her heart, but my grandfather, who never liked him, stepped in. Dad tried to rush the divorce and cut off her medical benefits, but Granddad hired a top divorce lawyer and made sure she got what she deserved. Dad backed down when his career was threatened and moved to the West Coast. We hardly saw him after that, except at my high school graduation when he offered to pay for college if I moved out west. I refused and kicked him out when he insisted. That was the last time I saw him. My mom later remarried a good man and I became a big brother at 15. My stepdad offered to help pay for college, but I joined the military instead, serving 4 years, including a year each in both Iraq and Afghanistan. Afterward, I used my military benefits to go to school while working for my grandfather. Granddad was a master stone mason. I started learning from him at 14, working summers in after school. In Afghanistan, I built walls around our positions, and when one of my walls saved lives, the other guys started helping. The local Afghan masons were incredibly skilled, and I learned a lot from them too. When I got out of the service, I joined the family business. Soon, I was managing jobs with just a couple of assistants, while Granddad handled the big projects. He was planning to retire, but before he could, a texting driver ran over him while he was crossing the street. He died instantly. He had already transferred the company to me by that time, and I took over at age 27. We specialized in building dry stone walls. No mortar? Just skill in laying stones to keep them stable. It's a difficult craft, but we were the best. Before Granddad passed, he secured a contract to repair walls at 5 of the state's oldest universities. Some of these walls were over 300 years old. I had a crew of master masons and journeymen at each site. Paying the journeymen based on their skill level, with the chance to increase their wages over time. There was some concern about whether I could handle the contract after Granddad's pass away. But I reassured them. The same skilled masons are still working, I said, and the quality won't suffer. They kept the contract with us, knowing how rare good masons are. I didn't enjoy managing the business without doing the hands-on work, so I hired my sister Becky, who had just graduated with a business degree. She was good at spotting poor work and could lay stone herself. We ran the business together with help from our stepdad Jerry, who was an accountant. My younger brother Jerry Jr. was 15 and I promised him a summer job learning the trade. Though he had a talent for math and might not stick with masonry, I knew he'd be valuable no matter what path he chose. I was 30 when I met Melody. One Thursday night, she came to the bar with friends, and we felt an instant attraction. My cousin Billy, who owned the bar, often had live bands playing country music, and I watched Mel dance a few fast songs admiring her grace. When she came to the bar as a slow song started, she grabbed my hand, saying, "I don't want to waste a good slow song. Let's dance." I was so surprised, I just followed her while my friends laughed. Dancing with Mel felt like magic. She moved so close, like we were the only two in the room. By the end of the song, I think I was already in love. She was about 5'9", and with heels she could look me right in the eye. When the song ended, she didn't let go of my hand and pulled me to her table to meet her friends. Though I couldn't remember their names. We talked until closing, and one of her friends urged her to kiss me and get my number before leaving. She kissed me, asked if I'd be there the next night, and told me to meet her at 730 for dinner. Then she was gone, leaving behind her perfume and the taste of her lips. Back at the bar, Billy teased me. "Not bad, bandit. If she'd held out a hoop, you'd have jumped through it." My nickname came from my real name, Jesse James, and my dad had picked it because he admired the outlaw's Robin Hood reputation. I had a rough history with women. My first serious girlfriend broke up with me before I left for the military, saying she didn't want to wait for an uncertain future. We met again after I returned, but we'd both changed. And the spark was gone. The second was Cindy, a college volleyball star. She was tall, athletic, and incredibly arrogant, used to getting her way. She believed she was special. And the whole campus treated her like royalty because her team won several national championships. I wasn't bad-looking myself. 6'1", muscular from my masonry work with sandy brown hair, pale blue eyes, and a permanent tan from working outdoors. One day, Cindy and her entourage walked into a crowded bar where I was eating alone. She asked me to give up my table for her and her friends. Assuming I'd leave, she smiled confidently. I just smiled back and kept eating, surprising her by not giving in to her demands. After a couple of minutes, she snorted. "Are you going to leave or what?" "We're waiting. When I'm done or a smaller table opens up, I'll gladly give it up. Or since I have plenty of space, you're welcome to join me." One of the guys spoke up. "You can go stand at the bar." I smirked. "Standing while eating will make your legs even bigger. I'm already struggling to find a decent 14-year-old girl. Don't make it harder." He growled. "Maybe I'll make you leave." He was about 5 to 10 and looked fit, but his posture said he didn't know how to fight. I looked at him, took a sip of tea, ate a fry, and sighed. 3 outcomes here. 1. You knock me up, and everyone thinks you're an idiot for picking a fight with someone minding their business. 2. I knock you, and everyone thinks you deserved it for being an idiot. Or 3. You let me finish, and I'll be gone in a minute. Let your friends sit while you grab drinks. I'll be out of here by then." He pouted, and Cindy, watching all of this, finally said, Brian, stop. Just get the drinks. We'll sit here if this gentleman shares. By then I was done. I stood, pushed the chair out for the girl nearest me and said, "Please take the table. I'm finished. Have a nice evening." I reached for my cane, revealing the cast on my leg from a student dropping a rock on my foot. Cindy's eyes widened. "Stay and let us buy you a beer," she offered. "Thanks, but I can't drink due to my meds." Brian came back, saw the cast, and smirked. He followed me outside, thinking I'd be an easy target. "You think that cast will save you? It'll make things easier," he said, threatening me. Without a word, I turned and jabbed my cane into his groin. He dropped instantly, groaning, and wet himself. I calmly said, "Don't get up until I'm gone. If you do, I'll assume you want trouble. And you won't like what happens next. Grow up." When I walked out, Cindy and her friends had noticed his absence and came out just in time to see our interaction. They helped him up and dusted him off. Cindy started asking around the restaurant about me and eventually tracked me down. One night when I walked into the bar and grill, she pointed to an empty chair. "I saved you a seat," she said. I was about to sit elsewhere when she touched my shoulder. "Please, just for a moment, we owe you an apology. Brian was an idiot. And he's not with us anymore." I sensed sincerity and sat down. I was surprised to learn her friends weren't airheads. One was studying political science with a job offer from a lobbying group. Another was heading to Yale, and the third was getting an MBA from Wharton. Cindy was majoring in sports psychology, planning to use it after her volleyball career. They discussed their futures and occasionally asked for my opinion. I chimed in when I could. When the conversation shifted to my work, one friend asked, "Wow, that's a niche market. Is it good money? What's your business plan?" I raised my hand. "It's great money. I'll never be rich, but I'll be comfortable. Most of my work comes from word of mouth, and my services aren't for everyone. I usually work on multi-million-dollar properties. Right now I've got 2 major projects with developers and a restoration contract for the state college system. I've been doing this for 2 years, and tomorrow I'm flying out to pitch similar contracts in other states. I'll probably hire local masons to handle the new workload." Even when the economy struggled, I stayed busy because the wealthy always need quality work. Everyone was surprised, and Becca, a business major, spoke first. "I'm writing a paper on niche businesses. I might focus it on your company if you're okay with it." "Sure," I said, grinning. "It'll be good advertising, but you might need to travel for a deeper look since most of the work is out in the field." She smiled. "No problem. My parents fund anything school-related." Cindy didn't look thrilled, but stayed quiet. Later, I found out she tried to talk Becca out of it. Becca refused, saying the report would boost her Wharton application, and I'm not dating him. She smirked. What he plans is another story. We ended up in a 2-year relationship. And I quickly learned that to keep her in check, I had to throw her off balance. She had a my way or else attitude, and I made it clear. "You may be the queen at school, but not with me. I want a partnership where we both lead and follow." She smiled and said, "I'll be your queen and you'll be my king." For 18 months, I kept her guessing, even delaying Zax to maintain control. One night she got fed up and yelled, "Damn it, Bandit, man up and do me." "What's wrong?" "Scared you won't be good enough." I replied calmly, "I've heard all about your skills from others, but thanks for the offer. I'll pass. Good night, Sint." She tried to apologize and physically stop me, but I broke free and left. I didn't see her for 2 weeks despite her calls and messages. When I finally returned, Her last emails were nasty. She didn't handle rejection well. One night, I ran into Becca and her law school friend Carol at a bar. Carol grinned and asked, "Did Cindy dump you?" Becca laughed. "Look at his face. I bet you dumped her, didn't you, Jess?" I shrugged. It was mutual. We had different ideas about relationships. Carol laughed. "I bet she wanted you to jump through hoops and you refused. She's been a mess since you left." Just then, Cindy walked in with a basketball player. She saw us and stormed over, leaving the guy trailing behind, trying to hold her hand. She snapped at him. "Let go of me. We're just friends." The guy, frustrated, said, "Why are you stuck on that red neck? He dumped you and he's a loser. He'll never support you like I can." Becca nearly fell off her chair laughing. "What an idiot. You're not even in the pros yet, and that's no guarantee. Jesse owns a successful business, makes 6 figures, and that number's growing. Not bad for a red neck, huh? Dustin?" Just as Dustin was about to object, Carol stepped in. "Dustin, whatever you're thinking, stop. Look at him. Those muscles aren't from the gym and he's been in combat twice. He could take you apart easily. Why don't you go sit at the bar? Becca and I will keep you company." They walked him out as he complained. Cindy sat down staring at me for a few minutes before saying, "The worst part about being spoiled is that it works. I know I'm arrogant and a control freak. But I'm a good person. Why don't we start over?" I stayed quiet, which made her uncomfortable. So she continued. "I regret that night. I thought I was a prize to be admired. I know I'm just a girl and there are better ones out there, but they'll never love you like I do. I'll wait for you and you can set the pace." 4 months later, Cindy wanted to see where our relationship was headed. After not winning nationals, she blamed me for distracting her. She had an offer to play pro beach volleyball, with most of the money coming from endorsements. We talked it over and decided to get married, though we agreed to wait until after her first year. She traveled with me for a month, spending time together before her season started. When she left, it was hard. She cried as I almost had to push her onto the plane. I told her, "If you don't like it, come home. I can pay for your studies." She hugged me tighter. "I need to prove I can take care of myself. I signed a contract and I have to play." Her first season went well. She and her partner were ranked first. The string they wore on TV bothered me, but she laughed it off. "It's in the contract. Honey. It's part of an ad campaign. You don't mind, do you?" I supported her, though we only saw each other once a month for a few days. When she finally came home, my mom started hinting at grandchildren. Meanwhile, my sister Becky was settling down with her wife. After Mom came to terms with Becky's life, she started pressuring them to adopt or do artificial insemination, which they were considering. After 4 weeks at home, Cindy became distant. I confronted her and she eventually admitted. I signed another contract for next season. They doubled the money and I couldn't turn it down. I was furious. We argued constantly. "You promised last year would be it," I said. Cindy, frustrated, screamed back at me, but when I wasn't paying attention, she stopped. In a quiet voice, she said, "I'll write a contract. If I don't quit next year, the marriage is off. Please, Bandit, this means so much to me." I looked at her and said, "You don't need a contract. If you don't stop next year, I'm gone. Got it?" She went pale and made promises once she didn't keep. Early the next year, Her team's success continued and her partner Jen even called to thank me for letting Cindy stay on tour. Jen mentioned this would be her last year as she was moving on to teaching and coaching. She joked about how if her marriage had been like ours, she might still be married. That comment left me uneasy. Later, when Cindy told me about Jen's call, I shot her a look. She went quiet. I asked, "What arrangement is Jen talking about?" Cindy tried to laugh it off, saying Jen was just scattered after her divorce, and reassured me I'll never make her mistake. When I pressed, she admitted Jen had an affair with a guy on the tour, which led to her divorce. Cindy promised, "I would never hurt you like that." Normally Cindy called me every Monday and Tuesday. But one week I heard nothing, despite my calls and emails. The following week she came home unexpectedly, furious that I hadn't been answering her calls. I told her I was just following her lead. We had a huge argument, and in a fit of anger I mentioned her Spanish boyfriend. She went pale and I left. 2 days later, Cindy showed up at my work begging to talk. She insisted nothing was happening and promised to quit the tour after the season. She said everything I wanted to hear, and I believed her. She did 2 more photo shoots, but one day, while waiting on my truck tires, I saw a golf magazine featuring Juan Pablo. In one picture, he was kissing Cindy at a beach volleyball match. The article mentioned he attended her events to support his girlfriend. I was furious. I ignored her calls and flew to her next match. When I got to her hotel, Juan opened the door, turning pale when he saw me. Cindy wasn't there. I called her and she cheerfully claimed to be at dinner with her partner, Jen. I chatted for a few minutes while Juan stood frozen. After hanging up, I turned to Juan and said, "I was in the military. I spent 2 years in the desert eliminating people. I won't eliminate you, but if you lie, I'll break your wrists and knees. You'll live, but you won't walk or use your hands properly. It's your choice." Would I have done it? No, but I was so angry that Juan believed me. He started spilling everything. It started at the end of the first season, Juan admitted. Not with me, but another player. Cindy said you were okay with it, that you had an arrangement. She told me it would end after the season, and she was excited to marry you. Where is she now? I asked. Juan panicked and confessed they were at another hotel. I grabbed him by the throat and warned him not to tip her off. Later I watched Cindy and her new partner walk into their hotel. I waited a few minutes before kicking the door open. Cindy nearly fainted when she saw me. Her partner tried to act tough, but I quickly pinned him. "How long?" I demanded. 3 or 4 months, he stammered. "You knew she was engaged and you still went along with it?" I asked, noting he was also engaged. He begged for mercy. Cindy silently fixed her dress, and I realized time was running out as people gathered in the hallway. I let him go, punched him, and said, "Good luck playing golf now." To Cindy, I said, "Keep the ring. We're done." I left, called the hotel manager, and offered to cover repairs and medical bills, then got out of there. The next day, the tournament announcers downplayed his injury as an accident. Roars spread fast, and he flew home, newly single. Cindy and her partner played poorly for the rest of the season. Jen retired and Cindy played for 4 more seasons before earning her PhD. She tried to contact me for months, even telling my mom she'd fly out to talk. My mom laughed and told her off. And Cindy never came. For 2 years, I had trust issues with women, then I met Melody, and things changed. She was a trauma nurse, and our schedules aligned. We took it slow: dinners, dancing, museums, and baseball games. It wasn't long before I was head over heels for her. We never saw each other. On her workdays, but she always called during breaks. She lived with 2 other nurses, and they had a strict no boyfriends rule to avoid drama. One stole another's boyfriend while she was asleep. So he had to set rules. Tired of motel rooms, I started house hunting and asked my business contacts. 4 leads. They teased me, saying, "She's got you, huh?" One designer advised, "Let her help choose the house." I took the advice and involved Melody, using my insider knowledge to find homes. The first few didn't impress her, but we found a 4-bedroom house on 3 acres just outside town that she loved. She smiled and said, "I'm thinking about tree houses." I took the week off, finalized the deal, and got a great price. On Friday, we went back to the house, and I asked, "Could you be happy living here?" "I'd love it." "Why?" she asked. "Because we bought it, I need you to pick out furniture. Is that okay?" Before she could answer, I knelt and proposed, telling her I wanted to spend my life with her. Dear listeners, this is first part of story named "I Walked In on My Wife and Her AP in Our Bed," the moment that shattered my world forever. We will meet you in next part of this story.